What's up, everyone? Thank you all for joining Andre and I. Andre wanted to speak out with me and share a lot of information with everyone else that is interested in going to the Guard. He's an Air National Guard recruiter out of California. This is going to be a very, interesting talking point on a lot of the things people aren't aware of with the Air National Guard and then the Reserve, the main differences, and then what AGR is within the Guard, and what are the different, things you can do within the AGR, and what the process is like going into the AGR, and what his experience has been like as a recruiter. Andre and I actually met from my original recruiter, Sergeant Tulio, back in California when I first joined the military. That was 9 years ago. Actually, I forgot to mention that, dude. I just hit my 9-year mark in June.
Congrats.
18th. Crazy. So I'm looking forward to that clothing allowance, the extra bump in pay a little bit too this month or next month. So that'll be nice. So Andre, man, if you want to share a little bit about yourself, your life as a recruiter and everything, the Guard, man, if you want to give that out there.
Sure. Yeah, let me first I want to give a congratulations to you, man. Congrats on that 9 years. It goes quick. I'm in the back half of my career too. I'm hitting 18 in September. But probably just like yourself, John, man, when time flies when you're having fun.
Oh yeah.
And it felt like I was going to MEPS and joining up not too long ago, and then here we are planning our, talking about our next moves and transitioning out of active duty and maybe like some civilian ventures. So many different opportunities with the Air Force, whether that's active duty, Guard, or Reserve, and I want to thank you for putting that stuff out there via YouTube and having these conversations, because not a lot of people even know about it.
No.
So it's a privilege to have this conversation with you, John. You from my observations, you're one of the stars of coming out of the Air Force, and there's a lot of good gems that we can share the information. There's no point in us keeping it to ourselves. So, why not share that information wealth and probably help out some other people make some good decisions and set themselves up well too.
Most definitely, man. I wish I had a mentor when I first joined the military. The knowledge and information I learned now, even the last few months, the amount of information I learned at 9 years in, I wish I knew that even 4 years ago, or even when I first got in, because it really changes your direction in your life, where you go. There's so many opportunities the military has to offer, but you're just not told it. It's the little things that you got to ask people or know people that know these little things, and then it opens that door for you. But I think the position that you're in right now, Air National Guard, as an AGR, I didn't even know what that was a few months ago. I was like, what the heck's an AGR? I didn't even know within the Guard and the Reserve, two different components, that they also have AGRs. And I was like, what the heck is an AGR? Which I guess is a good first topic. What is an AGR, man? If you want to share that with everyone and visit being an AGR.
So just like John said, I'm a recruiter for the California Air Guard. Taking a step back, I was active duty Air Force for 13 years, and then I went into the Air National Guard. Now, the Air National Guard, and then for some people we're thinking right now, what's the Air National Guard? What is that, right? So the Air National Guard is essentially the state Air Force, is what I like to simplify and call it, right? So we do have full-time positions in the Air Guard, and then they're called AGRs. AGR is one of many, but the most popular being AGR. That stands for Active-Guard Reserve, right? So much like people understand with active duty, that's full-time, right? And then the Air Guard or Reserve would be part-time. These AGRs, these Active-Guard Reserve slots, are full-time. So you can still be full-time in the Air National Guard. Not a lot of people know that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's an opportunity for people to get some similar benefits to active duty, but also, most importantly, I think have a full-time paycheck while maybe serving locally or, where they're choosing to serve, and have all those different options and flexibility and control. And we'll go into that too. But for our state, each state is a little bit different. How we list our AGRs slots is we have a state website. So depending on the job that you have, right, it would be listed on there. And if you saw that vacancy, you would apply for it. Now, and John, feel free to chime in if you have any questions, because you're like my measure too. If it doesn't make sense, like I have the context, it makes sense to me, but I want to make sure our audience understands it too. With our AGR listing, one thing I want to get through to everybody is it's a little bit different than active duty, because active duty, everybody is full-time, period. Boom. You select a job, you're full-time. But with us, with the Guard, our AGRs, what we're trying to do, the reason we have these AGR vacancies is because we want some experience on staff. Like using my base as an example, majority of our populace is part-time, right? So 70% of our populace, our base members are part-time, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. 30% are full-time, so that they might be on those AGR slots. So a lot of times when we advertise these AGR slots, it's for somebody who might already have, a couple years experience in that career field. So they might already be like 2-3 years in. Sometimes it's, more than that. Maybe it's a mid-level or senior level leadership experience that we're trying to retain. So the challenge there might be like for somebody starting out with the Guard, it's not always easy to just instantly go AGR. But if you're coming off of active duty and you already have a wealth of experience, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to keep that experience.
Okay. So I've heard a lot of mixed things about that, Andre, like with active duty members going right into AGR, that it's a lot harder because you're not already in that unit and they don't have a face to see, hey, this is the guy we're going to hire. So I've heard that it's a harder process getting that slot until you join that unit as a reservist versus traditional reservist or Guard, and then transition into the AGR slot. Do you mind chiming in on that and spelling that maybe? Yeah,
so it can be competitive. Now, the first thing you want to do is, talk to a recruiter like myself. And at the end of this video, we'll also put out my phone number, my work cell number. So if anybody has any questions about how to do this in California, feel free to reach out. It can be competitive. These AGR slots are coveted, right? But that doesn't mean, you shouldn't try to reach for it and go for it. Mm-hmm. So there is an application process, much like you would apply for a private sector job, a civilian job, right? You would have to put together a resume, maybe a military resume and a civilian resume. They can be the same. And then also your performance report, so your history thus far in the military, and then maybe some letters of recommendation. And then depending on how competitive it is, that they could host interviews. So again, this is going to feel a lot like you're applying for a civilian job. Mm-hmm. And then, once you get these jobs, they can be anywhere from 1 year to 4-year tours, so there. Also, I think, with that website, you can look at that website and then also, and again, feel free to reach out for me if you'd like that link to the website.
This is the state website to look at the vacancies?
Exactly.
Okay.
So not every job is going to have a vacancy, but when it's there, you can apply for those things. And that's leading to a popular thing. Like when you're coming off an active duty, right? People are like, well, I want to stay, I want to keep my streamlined years in service. I don't want to have a break in active duty service, right? Mm-hmm. They want to go from like 4 or 6 years and then continue active duty the whole way through. You can do that, but the way you do that is you apply for these slots maybe a year out, and if you get it, that's how you align it.
I see. So like right now, my window, I'm exactly a year out actually. June 2021 is my separation date and my 10-year mark. So now is the window I would want to apply for those AGR slots if I want to continue serving. And for me, I do want to continue serving. I am looking at the traditional reservist route or the Guard route. But I think the AGR route is the best kept secret on top of the IMA program too that people keep talking about, because the AGR program, it allows you to continue working towards your pension. So that the fact I've been in 10 years on active duty, if I do another 10 years as an AGR, I'll get my full pension or retirement at the 20-year mark. Whereas as a traditional reservist or traditional guardsman, where you're only doing 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, you have to do like X amount of points per year, right, to have a good year, and then you don't have access to those funds until you're 60 or 59 and a half, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah, it's about 60. It just all depends what's making sense, because you might have 60. Nobody likes to look forward to 60. You're like, man, that takes forever. I want to enjoy my life now. But if you're doing that route, you have a full-time career most likely. So of course, you might have a 401k with matching for your full-time employer. You might be, doing so many other things. The Air Guard or the Reserve, is extra credit. It's just on top of all those other things.
Mm-hmm. It's like a supplemental income to your civilian income and benefits.
Right, and it's smart. It's just smart to, to keep your benefits as a military member. A big one that our members love is the TRICARE Reserve Select. This is another thing people don't think about, right? Because the older we get, we're going to have more things that require medical attention, right?
Yeah, no, that's
so
true.
Keeping your medical benefits for you and your family are huge. TRICARE Reserve Select, active duty, I think you pay like $50 and and it's seamless. It almost comes out of your paycheck. You don't even notice it. It feels free, right?
Yeah.
But
that's what the recruiters tell you.
That with taxes and everything, it's just like, I don't even look at that side of the LES, I just push through. But with the TRICARE Reserve Select, it's $75 for an individual, which is super cheap, and then $200 for a family. Mm-hmm. So we got a lot of members who just do the minimum 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, just because of that, TRICARE Reserve Select. Because their civilian employer would charge them like $500 for health insurance.
Yep.
Right? And then with TRICARE Reserve Select, they're saving $300 by, only paying $200. So that's a big one, for the family, thinking big picture. And then California, is an expensive state to live in. Beautiful state, lovely weather, but it's expensive. So anything that can save you a couple $100 a month is big.
Goes in the long run, yeah. If you don't mind if I share my point on that too. So Andre and I actually talked about that because previously, the last time we talked, I was very set on going IMA. And just a quick back brief on what IMA is. You do all of your service. So a traditional reservist, for example, you only do the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. But in the IMA, you do the whole year's worth within one time frame. So it's all in one time frame instead of doing the whole monthly thing. I was set on doing that and doing an overseas location, but Andre and I were talking, since I am going to be going into real estate, a lot of my network's going to be in California. A lot of the properties that I'm going to list and stuff, it's going to have to, you're going to have to nurture those listings and those clients too. And if I'm doing the IMA program and I'm gone for about a month and a half out of the year in Germany, for example, that's what I was targeting for. What's going to happen when I have a listing that I need to close that month, but hey, I have IMA duty that month, so I guess I just lost out $1 million property. That takes months of work to build up to. So something Andre and I talked about last time was exploring the Active-Guard Reserve route, because for one, you still get all of your benefits full-time like active duty. There's no break in service. I'll still get my retirement at 20 years. So if I were to do AGR right when I get out of here, I'll retire at 38 years old. Dude, it's freaking young. But also with on top of the AGR, I think it's more supportive for someone that has a family that is transitioning from an overseas location to a stateside location with a network they have to build up again, like real estate. That's very complicated because it's all commission based. You have no fixed salary. So that's really scary, honestly, getting into that. It can make or break, but having the military still as your financial support system and all those benefits really makes it a lot easier to manage. For one, the stress, and then the financial stability, having a secure paycheck still, and even the BAH and the house and everything. And you're able to do real estate on the side too, and then build up your network. That's the route that I'm leaning towards now that we last talked about that. So it definitely opened my eyes once we talked about the AGR system. So that's something people should explore too.
Yeah, there's so many different options that become available at your fingertips with the Guard. The AGR, of course, is super popular, and the active duty audience coming out of active duty, they're all, it's popular to want AGR, right? Because you want to continue that income primarily too, because you maybe built a lifestyle around that income. You want to keep it going. So the best path is going to be that website and applying early. But something to think about that's really attractive with the Guard options is Pcsing. Like going back into my story, I was stationed in active duty in Hawaii, right? And great assignment. And I was like, I don't want to leave anymore. Like I love it in Hawaii. And so that's why I went Guard, So you have the control of your PCSs. So I only PCS if I want to, or if there's a better opportunity somewhere else, but no more will you have to move because of active duty if you don't want to. So that was really cool about the Guard. And since I've been in the Guard, it's been in about 5 years, I had PCS a couple times. I PCS to from Hawaii to Wyoming, where I started my recruiting career. So that was AGR. I took an AGR tour there, started my career. And by the way, Wyoming's awesome. If anybody's never been, Wyoming's super awesome. No income tax state. So really good spot to buy some real estate, if you know, because I know you're into that, John, too, myself too. And then I PCS back to California, again, another AGR slot. And California's home. I'm from Southern California originally, so it's good to be back home. I got, about 3 more years and change on this AGR tour, and then I'll retire, and I'll be at 40. I'll be 40 years old at that time. So having control of your PCSs and your moves, that was huge for me. I also, we got another baby on the way. So I have a daughter, and then I got another
congratulations.
daughter. Thanks, man. You definitely got to make some grown-up choices, because it's not just about me anymore, right? It's about the family. So that's why I meant like TRICARE Reserve Select is huge, but then also controlling where I live means I have control where the baby's grandparents are going to be at. So that's childcare, right? Childcare concerns. So that's another big thing, as you have a family that comes to mind. So I won't have to, live across the country or overseas unless I want to, because I can have that family support that now I need, for childcare. So that's another big thing that I love about the Guard, and that's why I left active duty after 13 years to go Guard.
Okay. And what would you say the biggest difference between active duty is and AGR? Because AGR is still a full-time role like active duty, but I'm sure there's a lot of differences as far as work-life balance, and then, just the politics and stuff. So what are some of the main differences? Yeah,
that's a great question. So it is full-time, just like active duty, but, I would say the organization is going to be a lot different, because there's going to be people who are PCSing. If you've ever been like on a short tour, like Korea, for example, 1 year tour in Korea, everybody's in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So with the AGR tour, or being just assigned to a Guard wing, you have continuity. People are there for like 10 years, 20 years. Some people stay for 30 years. Wow. And most of the members are from the local area. So that's different too. Like active duty, right? Everybody's from everywhere, which is cool, right? Because you got people on the East Coast, West Coast, and all coming together to do one mission. That's awesome. But now you got with the Guard this different feel where, the people who are in your wing grew up right there in that town, right? They went to the local high schools, and they have a lot of family members in that wing too. So it might be like a lot of like close ties. People know each other. They've seen their kids grow up together. So you can really join, like, that's why when we say it's like a second family, you really grow up together, and people know everybody. You also, like, you get that joke where like it's first name basis. It was, hey, what's up, Bob? What's up?
Almost like medical and finance then, right?
Yeah, because everybody knows everybody. Everybody's so close. So that's pretty awesome. I dig that side. Another thing too, it's so easy to cross train. Like when I was active duty, I couldn't get out of my career field.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons I was like, man, it's time for me to go.
What was your career field while you were active duty?
I was 1-in-1 X1, which is a geospatial analyst.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And at that time, there was a bonus. So it was a critical career field. So we were kind of locked into it. So that was one of my, I always wanted to get in recruiting, but because it was a critically manned career field, we couldn't get out of it. So that was what made me want to leave, active duty too. But with the Guard, I started off with going into contracting. Are you familiar with the contracting career field?
So you cross-trained from geospatial, that position, to contracting, then from contracting to recruiting.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's easy to to jump around, and my thought process, which would kind of be good to share for anybody leaving active duty, you might think to yourself, what skills would I want the Air Force to pay me to learn? Right? What could help me on the civilian side? So, and contracting was my answer at that time. When I joined active duty, in 2002, my recruiter at the time, he was like, I wanted contracting. So, and he was like, it wasn't available because it's kind of a hard job to get. And he was like, just go open general. You can get it at basic training. You know about that open general, right?
If you go open general, you'll probably end up security forces like me. But I chose security forces. That's a little different. Yeah,
man. And you get, you luck out. Sometimes we think we know what we want. We don't know what we want. So at the time, I was kind of like, man, there's no way I would have got contracting. And I got the geospatial analysis, which was cool. And I dug in. I grew a lot. I learned, right? And so now with the guard, when I went guard, I was like, hey, let me try to get this dream job from 2002. And I got it because, like I mentioned, it's easy to cross-train the guard. You're not restricted like you are on active duty. But then as I started up with it, I realized this wasn't really what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't what I wanted. And I'm in a different place in life now.
Okay.
But I appreciated the option to explore it, right? To get into it, to learn some stuff. Then recruiting came about and I was like, let me try this. And I loved it. And the rest is history. But just that flexibility of control, that was huge to me. Because, with the active duty, in exchange for that active duty, that full-time income, you lose some of that control. The guard, it's not always going to be full-time, but you have all this flexibility, all these different options, And of course, when you go to tech school, when I went to tech school for contracting, that's full-time pay. You're still getting BAH wherever you're assigned to, things like that. So it can be, a good lump of cash you're making those months if you're in tech school to help you out when you go back to, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year.
Okay. And when you were contracting, was that already an AGR position or was that a traditional guardsman position? And then
that was traditional. Okay. So that was that 1 weekend. I did that for 18 months. So if you go into the guard, most of the time people are going into traditional spots.
Okay.
So you'll just be coming to that 1 weekend a month we call drill. So be coming to drill, you get paid for drill and just like the base pay chart that everybody can find, there's a drill chart too, so you can kind of figure out how much you would make during drill based on it. It's almost like prorating, right? If you took 30 days, you divided it up, and you actually get paid for 4 days for those 2 days of drill. So you just do the math on that.
Oh, okay. And what do you guys do at drill? Whenever I think of drill, I'm thinking like marching and the honor guard and all that, but it's not actually that.
Somebody else thought that too from active duty. That's why I wanted to explain that. So we call it drill, and so it's really just refresher training. Because if you're, let's say you're fully trained, right, and you're only coming together 1 weekend a month, you're really just refresher training. You have a commander's call. You're getting kind of like where we're at as a unit and what's the way ahead kind of information, and different people are doing different upgrade training, so you're kind of seeing where everybody is. Then lunch is complimentary.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
You get access to DFAC and free lunch, so that's kind of fun, And then you might have more training, some CVTs. I know everybody loves CVTs, based training. And then that'll be the day, maybe some PT, and it'll go quick. It kind of tripped me out when I went. So for that, when I left active duty for 18 months, I was traditional guardsman. And that 18 months flew by because you're just seeing everybody 1 weekend a month. So think of it, instead of, seeing somebody, the bulk of the year, you're seeing them 2 days a month, so 24 days a year maybe, and then it flies by. But the cool part that not a lot of people think about is the networking. And I know you, John, we talked about that, the networking.
Like even just now, us networking through Tulio, he's the one that introduced us, and it's just crazy the networking opportunities that already exist within active duty, but within the guard itself, the state you're going to go to, like we were talking about, the family roots and where you guys grew up, it's even a deeper bond than what already is within the military, the brotherhood. So that's what I think is really cool about that too.
Yeah, and so like, if you're looking for a full-time career, right, a civilian job, right, the person working next to you, you might be like, where do you work? So in your case with security forces, John, you got security forces members who are in LAPD, Ventura PD, maybe, sheriffs, CHP, so you can network through them and be like, hey, how are your guys' vacancies? Are you willing to write a letter of recommendation to me? And this is going to be different, of course, for each shop and each like unit, but similar in that, like if you're in aircraft maintenance, you might be like, hey, SpaceX is out here in LA. Is SpaceX hiring? You'd be like, yeah, man, yeah, I work for SpaceX. I see you at Drill. Why wouldn't you hook up your buddy? Because you can attest to their quality of work, right? And you can tell your boss at SpaceX or, Lockheed Martin or things like that. And you can kind of help them get those jobs. So there's a lot of great networking there. Also, like for me being in real estate, like, if I need an electrician, I can go to CE, be like, hey man, I know you're a fully trained electrician for the Air Force and you do this 1 week in a month. Maybe you're doing this, maybe you have your own firm or you work for another firm doing this full time Monday to Friday. Hey, can you help me out? I'm doing a rehab on a house or something like that. So many, cool relationships that you can build and network. The networking is endless. It's, to be honest with you, the networking is better in the Guard than, in my opinion, than active duty. It's just depending on how good you are at building relationships.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one of the biggest things I wish I learned when I first got in, was how important networking is, because it's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know. And
right.
it helps you out a lot down the road once you learn that from the get-go and you already start gaining those skills to know how to network with people, get out there, to those events, and just putting your name out there and branding yourself essentially, because that's what you're doing, is you're branding yourself and how you can help others and give value to others, and also with them reciprocating too. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things I like about the Guard and the Reserve, is the networking opportunities in there. Like you said, it's even better in Guard or Reserve than active duty. I can't wait to see what that's going to be like. Honestly, I'm really excited, because that's what I love about active duty, is the networking and all of the friends that I've made out here and the different connections we have and stuff. And just to go back on real estate, like what I'm getting into, my buddy and I, we served in Aviano Air Base as defenders. He's the one that got me the position that I'm going into in real estate at Compass in Newport Beach, because he already is working within that team, and because I already knew him and we had that really strong relationship, he was able to get me an introduction with their boss and get them to go ahead and get me approved for SkillBridge. That's something that we can discuss on another video. And for those of you that are watching this, if you go to the right side of this video, I'll post a link and it'll go to my SkillBridge video. It'll talk about what that is. It pretty much is a transition out of active duty if you're retiring or separating, and it helps you intern with a civilian job of your choice. But yeah, my buddy, because I knew him, because I networked with him, he was able to get me a position within Compass, and that I wouldn't have gotten that position, honestly, if I had not networked with him, if I had not fostered that relationship, kept it growing, and I would not have gotten myself in front of that interviewee or his boss. And that's the greatest thing about networking, that you all need to take advantage of when you first join the military.
Exactly. There's so many good networking opportunities, and that's cool, because your buddy already kind of hooks you up, and there's like a path, and then and once you get out, like the bond between other vets is strong, like so that's huge. And whether that's real estate or any other industry, there's the bonds are strong. We've all kind of been through basic and maybe some deployments, so it's cool. And that's why I was telling you too, man, we need to connect once you get local.
I'm excited. In March, I'll be back in Cali.
Yeah, man, there's a lot going on too, and all that. And I think also you're a great example of the things that you were talking about too. We're using your branding, where you got your clothing and your apparel with Morale Check apparel. That's a great job, and reaching for those entrepreneurial ventures, using those skills that we've learned and grown through active duty, and now applying them to the civilian world, because everybody has to leave the military at some point or another. So you got to think about, what's the next step? What skills do I want to leave the military with and grow with thereafter, right? So a lot of room there to apply the skills that the Air Force paid for us to grow with and hone.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always that's why I'm excited for you to come back to Cali, man. We'll have to work on some projects.
I'm excited, man. I can't wait for the sunny weather too, and the beaches too. And another thing too to share with you all, start planning. If you know you're going to separate, start planning 2 years out. I started planning about 1.5 years out. It was pretty early, but since I've started planning so early, I have less stress now coming up on a year anniversary left in the military. Now I can not necessarily take a step back and chill, but now I have those I guess stone set in place already. Now I just have to continue to monitor and make sure everything's still going in the right direction. But if you have a plan, just execute on your plan and make sure you have a plan A, B, and C in case A and B don't work out. So just have a plan, because a lot of the guys that I've seen have gotten out without a plan. Those are the guys that end up going back to the recruiter wishing they can, hey, can you get me back in? And once you're out, I've heard it's a lot harder to get back in, right?
It is, there, especially if you've been out more than 6 months, you got to go back to MEPS, which you all recall. Yeah, going back through MEPS a second time is actually a little bit harder, because you've got some wear and tear on your body and you're just a little bit older. So, there's some extra challenges if you aren't planning ahead. So, and that's why the Guard too, at the very least, you're keeping your benefits. I knew that when I got out in 2016 of active duty, I was like, I'm kind of ready to move on from active duty, but I knew that I want to keep my benefits going. That's why the Guard, or Reserve could be a good fit. And that was a smart decision on my part, because it opened so many different doors that I wasn't even really aware of at that time, that, we're kind of talking about the video, like the different AGR programs, recruiting opportunities, the networking, controlling your PCS. Again, if anybody has any questions, because there's a lot of information we're talking about, feel free to reach out. If John, if you can put my phone number, my work cell in the comments, but it's 805-415-7269. Again, it's 805-415-7269. Feel free to send me a text, give me a call. Definitely, just like John's doing, we want to share this information, take care of our buddies, and set them up for success.
Definitely, and everyone watching, like Andre said, I will post his information in the description below too, so you can click the link there and all of his information will be there. And also make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. It'll really help the YouTube algorithm, so that way others can get the same information you're receiving. And if you have any questions, make sure you comment down below too what questions you might have, because Andre and I will be monitoring those questions and definitely will be able to help you out as best as we can. But like I said, Andre is a recruiter for the Air National Guard, so he is the best guy you can go towards if you have any questions. He's the official source you can go to, and he'll be the guy to answer your questions. And with talking about recruiting, what has it been like for you as a recruiter? How did you go from contracting into recruiting? What made you want to get into being a recruiter? Because it's a sales job. A sales job in a way, right?
It is. It's interesting though. I'm not a salesman by trade, or with the Air Guard and the Air Force. I just believe in what we have to offer. I've recruited family members in, and I wouldn't do that if I didn't believe in what we had to offer. It's a great organization to be a part of. It is a privilege to be a part of the Air Force. So why not help somebody out? The big thing too, like, I got my bachelor's degree paid for. Who doesn't want more money for college right now? Everybody. Everybody would love a full ride. Not everybody gets a scholarship, right, to college, but in the military you do. Everybody's got a full ride. I think with the Air Guard too, we also, something to think about too, is we give you the time to go to college, because you need time to go to college. So that's nice, to have that time to focus on school. And then also the VA home loan, which is going to be huge for you, John, too, as you get into this real estate stuff, and you'll share that bond with other veterans, because they're going to trust you, when they want to purchase a home. But that VA home loan for myself, I was able to purchase my first property at age 23.
Wow. When
I was stationed at Langley, and there's no way I would have afforded that without it, right? So again, the military setting the stage for future success. So those are my two favorite benefits, hands down, the college money and the VA home loan.
I definitely agree with you there. A little golden nugget I want to throw out there for the new airmen joining, or the guys in active duty that aren't taking advantage of it. Something I wish I knew 9 years ago. I would have bought a property at every base I PCS to. So for example, my first installation or base was in Italy, Aviano Air Base, Italy. I wish I had gotten a loan, a local loan. You can't use a VA loan overseas, but I wish I had gotten a loan, bought a property there, and rented it out to military members or turn it into CLA property. Because if you do the numbers and everything, cash flow that you can make is really crazy. And that's something I wish I knew when I first joined, because I would have had a whole different approach to real estate and investing. And then my second base was in Incirlik Air Base, Turkey. So I wouldn't have bought a property there. We couldn't even leave the base. So it was a little different there. But here now, actually, what I'm doing now, I'm in Germany but I'm actually looking at buying a property in the Netherlands. The reason I'm buying a property in the Netherlands because as expats, you do not have to put a 20 to 30% down payment like as in Germany. You have to put a huge down payment, and it's a lot easier in the Netherlands. They're not as strict on your loan application and just getting vetted and even getting your BSN. A BSN is like your social security number for the Netherlands. So literally just go down to the town hall, give them your passport, and then you get a social security number, which allows you to open a bank account on the Dutch side, and then you get your loan with the brokerage or mortgage broker. So it's super simple, and it also allows you to diversify your portfolio. So if you want to get into real estate investing, it's better to have not all of your eggs in one basket, if that makes sense. So like I want to get a property in the Netherlands. We're here till next June. Yeah, it's only a year left, but I'd rather execute now instead of just regretting it. Because I wish I had bought a property 4 years ago when I got here, because I was doing the math. For my house that I'm in now that I'm renting, I pay 1,065 euros per month. And I don't pay it, the government pays it, but that goes to the landlord into his pocket. If I had bought a property when I first got here and my cap was around the same amount, I was paying the same amount towards my mortgage, I would have had about 51,000 euros paid off on my mortgage by the government to this day, which is freaking crazy. Like I did not know about military house hacking back then, but I wish I knew about it 4 years ago. But instead of complaining and wishing, I'm taking action now, even though I only have a year left. I'd rather reap the benefits of at least a year instead of 0. And when we leave here, I'm going to rent it out to military members or turn it into TLA property. But with that, it also comes into networking. That's where that comes to play, because there's already people that have done that. They're retired out here, or they left here and they bought properties. And I would not have learned any of that if I had not networked. So that's why, like what Andre and I are saying, with networking, it's very important. So that's, the two biggest benefits, like you said, with the education benefits and the VA loan. Those are the biggest benefits you can get from the military. So make sure you use your VA loan. If you're in the States, you can use your VA loan, but if you're overseas, you're gonna have to get a local loan through that country. So
yeah, those are some good gems you're talking about with the Netherlands. A lot for airmen. You get your, whether we think about it or not, the military sets us up for success with real estate. You just got to kind of pay attention to it. So we were talking about this before we push record, but each PCS, you get to live in that market for a couple of years, and I would say after 6 months, you could probably know enough to buy. If you're good at research, you could even buy before then, right? Maybe so you're buying as soon as you get there, but I always recommend about 6 months. But each time you go to these different markets, there's an opportunity to use your VA home loan, which you do have to live in the property for a year, or what John's doing, where overseas you get different rules. So he's throwing out some gems there with the Netherlands. I didn't even know about that, and how to get properties there. And you set up this stream of income, and then down the road, this can be just as much as your pension or more.
Oh.
So the cool thing with the Air Guard that I'm going to put you onto with your audience and you too, John, is imagine if you could control your PCSs. And then let's say you get into the AGR program and the markets, let's say Florida, right? Or Texas, let's say that's a great real estate market. And now you have the ability to control your PCSs, and you deliberately get a slot there and you can stay in that market. So as a real estate investor, if you can, in the Guard too, you can even take advantage of that even a step further, because now you can control what markets you're going to be living in instead of big Air Force just moving you around. So there's some angles there too. For me, like I'll share my experience when and this was just by luck. When I got my first recruiting tour in Wyoming, I didn't really know much of the market. I was just trying to get into recruiting, get my foot in the door, and I ended up buying a 4-unit. So you can even use your VA loan. Yeah, so for anybody who doesn't know what a 4-unit or a 4-flex is, it's like a small apartment. So you have 4 doors or 4 separate units, and you can rent those out. So it's still considered a residential loan. When you're using the VA home loan, you do have to live in it for a year. But then once you live in it for that year or during that tour, you've set up that stream, provided you've taken care of it and you're taking care of everything that needs to be for it to continue to work on its own. But you can each PCS you could buy for. I wish if I could go back, like you said, your first assignment to Italy, I would every PCS, because in active duty I did like stationed at Beale and then Osan in Korea, and then I went to Langley and then Hawaii. If I would have bought a 4-unit at each one, I'd be retired right now.
Yep. Oh yeah, just the cash flow and everything. If the numbers make sense, man, it's crazy what you can make. And we've been sitting on this treasure underneath us for so long. It's just, you don't see it. You don't have those lenses on at the time until someone tells you about it, a mentor tells you about that. So hopefully this video opens y'all's eyes and to show you what is in front of you, that if you're not seeing what's in front of you, that's something I wish I knew back then. I mean, granted, I'm still young at 28, but still, like, I feel behind the curve. Like a lot of folks that I see on YouTube that are killing it, these kids are like 18, 19 years old doing what I'm doing now. But me, I feel like behind the curve, like they're starting at 18. And it's like, wow, that is crazy. But that's because maybe their parents have already been telling them about that, mentoring them, or they've just already been in that audience or those friends. So really, it's what you know and who you know.
Yeah, or just networking. Exactly. Yeah, I love the real estate stuff. I'm not anymore, but I was a licensed realtor in Hawaii and Wyoming. I'm not anymore, so take my advice with a grain of salt. But yeah, definitely some huge opportunities in the real estate world because of the VA home loan. That was a game changer for me, and it still continues. Now I'm looking at doing a 6-unit, purchasing a 6-unit in the same town in Wyoming, but that does require a commercial loan. So different ventures. So you take your first step, and then you grow from there, right? Same thing in the gym. You don't start off benching 300 pounds. Maybe it's you aim for your body weight, and then with each workout you grow from there, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Okay, well, I mean, the 6-plex would be really nice. But so anything over 4, that's already considered a commercial property then for 6-plex?
Yep, it's a commercial loan, so the rate becomes adjustable. Right now, rates are phenomenal. So this is just by luck. It's a good time to do it, but it's 5-year. It's not a 30-year mortgage like a residential home loan. It's a 5-year, and then you re-up it. And overall, I think it's a 20-year loan.
Ah, okay. Yeah, like what you were saying with the pandemic. We can't say the C word on YouTube or they demonetize your video. But with the whole pandemic, interest rates are at an all-time low too, and like that's one of the biggest reasons too why we're buying in the Netherlands. The interest rates we were quoted at was 1.79%. That is freaking crazy. 1.79%.
Wow.
Yep.
Congrats. I've never seen that before.
No. And then even the housing market too. So like, for example, I've been looking in the States, like Newport Beach is where we're going back to, been looking on Zillow. The minimum amount for a single family home, decent size, is like $800,000 to $1 million at minimum. Over here, like $200,000, you can get a pretty big size house in the Netherlands. $400,000, $500,000, you can get a villa already in the Netherlands, which is so crazy. So really, you got to know your markets, and then make sure if you guys are going to get into real estate investing, look into overseas properties too. You don't have to keep everything within just the U.S. because other countries, you do get some tax benefits there or other benefits with having real estate properties out there. Like I said, it's more about diversifying your portfolio. But yeah, real estate is definitely where it's at if y'all are definitely interested in learning more about real estate. I also have a Facebook group that we started it's called Vets to CEOs. What it is, it teaches veterans and military members that are transitioning out or people that are already out of the military how to learn more about financial literacy, being more financially smart, and making those smarter decisions and also investing and stuff, because they don't really teach you that in the military, honestly. They don't teach you finances too much. They don't teach you investing. Even in school, they don't really teach you all that. So that's something I'm trying to share more with the veteran community. And it is just a veteran community. So if you are in the military or you are prior military, definitely feel free to join our group. I'll post a link in the description below as well. But to close things out, Andre, what are some of your future plans that you are looking at doing since you'll be retiring shortly after your recruiting gig? I remember you mentioned you wanted to get into real estate lending.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting into real estate lending myself. Hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have that 6-unit locked in, and that'll put me at a total of 10 units that I have as rentals in Wyoming. And then I want to venture into maybe Florida thereafter. I think the end goal there is to get up to 100 units.
Wow.
Some of the big dogs in like Bigger Pockets, for example, I think their top guy, he's got 500 units. So
wow.
I'm just happy to hit 10.
Yeah.
But, and then I want to venture into lending just to understand, because a lot of times, once you get the eye and you can figure out where these deals are, it's always becomes lending. How do you figure out, financing, right? What are the financing solutions? And sometimes talking, just like with recruiting, finding the right recruiter can make all the difference. Same thing with real estate, find the right lender can make all the difference, whether or not you can make a deal happen or not. So I want to get into that. And then I have plans to use the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to grad school out here once I retire in 3 years. So we got some great schools in Southern California. So I'm looking at Pepperdine or USC. They got some pretty good real estate masters. So I'll do that, and then hopefully, man, we can link up. We can do some deals.
We got to. It's a small world. Everyone I know out here a lot of them are from California, so it's definitely a small world. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's my future plans, and I try to give myself leeway too, because things can change. I didn't expect the 6 unit to come my way, but it did, and just being flexible to adapt to different opportunities. Same thing what's happening with the stock market right now. There's different opportunities. It's just paying attention as best we can, and then utilizing I think our circles around us to collect information and understanding what's happening and where the opportunities are. So we just keep looking out there, keep staying positive, and I think good things will happen.
Cool. Hey, well, Andre, do you have any last remarks or tips you could give to our viewers that are looking at making that transition into the Guard and going AGR? Do you have any tips that might be able to help them out before we close things out?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're leaving active duty, definitely consider the Air Guard. Please give me a call if you're thinking California, but keep those benefits. Like I said, you never know what opportunities come your way. Sometimes when somebody leaves active duty, there can be, you might be disgruntled, right? I think when I left in 2016, I was kind of burnt out, but I think one of the smartest decisions I made was stay Guard. And then different opportunities can be shown your way. So I finally got the contracting job that I thought I wanted at the time, but I got it. I didn't, I realized it wasn't for me at that stage of my life. And then recruiting came my way. And had I just gone out, I would have never had the opportunity, to get into recruiting. And now I love it. I'm a couple of years out from retiring, and I'm so thankful that, I didn't let, the situation that I was in active duty kind of shape my future decisions to the point that I just totally disregarded the military and kind of moved on. Because there's so many different things that can come your way, like different job opportunities, like SpaceX out here is a popular one, or different government firms, and the networking and the people you'll meet. It's such a privilege to be in the Air Force or any branch of the military. I see that in recruiting. Not everybody can get into the military. It's kind of skewed, because when you join the military, you're like, well, there's so many of us. What do you mean it's hard to join the military? I see you look around the base, you're like, there's 10,000 people. But for every one veteran, every one military member, there's probably like 50 other applicants who weren't able to get in for all types of reasons, whether it might be, weight gain is a big issue nowadays, weight gain or medical issues, so on and so forth. So keep your benefits, explore the Air Guard option. That would be my recommendation. And if you want to go AGR, feel free in California, feel free to reach out to me. I can send you the link to that website with our listings, so you can start planning a year out and keep these benefits going.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna reach out to you as well for that link, because I'm planning out right now too, Andre.
Yeah, man, and you're doing a great job. I think exploring the different options. You got a lot of different things going on, and you're kind of ideal in the sense of like, somebody leaving active duty, you got a lot of different opportunities now. So the Guard or the Reserve is going to be super flexible, that you can still keep your military benefits and explore those different options, the civilian world, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, hey, Andre, thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing all of this valuable information with our viewers and our audience, and I'm sure they're going to really benefit from this video. And again, everyone, for those watching this video, I will post Andre's information in the description below this video, so make sure you click that section so you can see his contact information and reach out to him if you are in California or you are looking at going into the National Guard and want to learn more about the AGR positions. And also make sure you like this video and hit the subscribe button if you found this information useful, and definitely spread this video out with others that might be going down this path or might be getting out of the military that might be thinking about the Air National Guard or might not even know about the AGR positions. Make sure you share this with them, because I think it'll definitely help them out. Because I know for me, like I was talking about, I didn't know what the AGR was 3-4 months ago. So I think the sooner people know about this information, hear about it, will definitely help them out in the long run. But to close things out, yeah, thank you again, Andre. I really appreciate your time. And for everyone else, if you have any more questions, make sure you comment below and reach out to us both. Thank you guys. Thank you, Andre, too.
Thanks, John.